The alarms started screaming all at once, sharp and relentless, cutting through the quiet rhythm of the hospital corridor. Nurses rushed, doctors shouted orders, and a soldier lay motionless as his heartbeat flatlined on the monitor. Panic spread quickly. This wasn't just another emergency, this was a moment where seconds meant everything. And then, from the corner of the hallway, a voice rose above the chaos, calm, firm, impossible to ignore. Move. No one expected it to come from him. A janitor, still holding a mop, stepping forward like he had done this 1,000 times before. People hesitated, confused, unsure. But what he did next didn't just save a life, it revealed a truth no one saw coming. Stay till the end, because the reason he was hiding his past will leave you stunned. The hospital was known for its efficiency, its discipline, and its ability to handle even the most critical cases. Doctors moved with confidence, nurses worked with precision, and every department functioned like a well-rehearsed system. But within that system, there were people who remained invisible, present every day, yet rarely noticed. Among them was Kareem, the janitor. He arrived early, left late, and spent most of his time quietly maintaining the hospital's cleanliness. People passed him without acknowledgement, speaking over him, around him, as if he were part of the building itself. But Kareem never reacted. He simply continued his work, steady and silent. There was something about him that didn't quite fit the role he carried. His posture was too composed, his awareness too sharp. He noticed things others didn't, small details, subtle changes, moments that often went ignored. It wasn't something people questioned. They simply didn't look closely enough to notice. That day began like any other. The corridors were busy, patients moved through departments, and the usual rhythm of the hospital carried on. Until everything changed. An emergency was rushed in, a soldier, critically injured, barely holding on. The energy shifted immediately. Doctors gathered, equipment was prepared, and urgency filled the room. Kareem, working nearby, noticed the change instantly. He didn't move closer, but his attention sharpened. He listened, not to the noise, but to the details. The situation was more serious than most realized. Inside the emergency room, the team worked quickly, but something wasn't right. The soldier's condition worsened faster than expected. Decisions were made, adjustments attempted, but time was slipping. And then it happened. The monitor flatlined. For a moment, everything froze. Not because they didn't know what to do, but because the situation had crossed into something critical, something unpredictable. Outside, Kareem heard the sound. He knew what it meant. Without hesitation, he stepped forward, moving toward the room. People noticed him, confused by his sudden urgency. But he didn't stop. Inside the room, chaos was building. Orders overlapped, movements lost coordination, and the pressure became overwhelming. And then Kareem entered. "Move," he said, his voice calm but commanding. The room paused, not completely, but enough to notice him. A janitor standing among trained professionals, speaking with certainty. It didn't make sense. But something in his tone made space for him. Not because they trusted him, but because they needed something different. Something decisive. And Kareem stepped in. What happened next unfolded with a precision no one expected. Kareem moved with confidence, his hands steady, his focus absolute. This wasn't hesitation or guesswork, it was experience. Deep, practiced, undeniable experience. The room adjusted around him, almost instinctively. He gave instructions clearly, efficiently, without wasted words. And for the first time since the emergency began, the chaos started to organize itself. Seconds passed, each one critical. And then, something changed. A faint signal. A response. The flat line broke. The heartbeat returned. It wasn't immediate relief, but it was hope. And slowly, that hope grew stronger. The soldier stabilized. The room exhaled, tension releasing in a wave of disbelief and gratitude. Kareem stepped back, his role complete, as quietly as he had entered. But this time, no one ignored him. The silence that followed wasn't confusion, it was realization. The doctors looked at him differently now, not as a janitor, but as something else entirely. "Who are you?" someone finally asked. It wasn't a challenge. It was a question filled with respect. Kareem paused, as if deciding whether to answer. And then, simply, he said, "I used to be a combat surgeon." The words landed heavily. They explained everything, and yet raised even more questions. Why would someone with that level of skill choose to work as a janitor? Why step away from a role where he could save lives every day? The answer didn't come immediately. But later, in a quieter moment, it revealed itself. Kareem didn't leave because he couldn't continue. He left because he had seen too much. Too many lives lost. Too many moments where even his best wasn't enough. The weight of those experiences stayed with him, not as regret, but as something deeper. Something that needed space. Working as a janitor wasn't about hiding, it was about healing. It allowed him to stay close to the place where he made a difference, without carrying the constant pressure of responsibility. But when the moment came, when a life depended on it, he didn't hesitate. Because some parts of who we are never leave us. The hospital changed after that day. Not in its structure, not in its systems, but in its awareness. People looked differently at those they once overlooked. They understood that roles don't define ability, and appearances don't reveal truth. As for Kareem, he returned to his routine. Quiet. Steady. Unnoticed by most. But not by all. Because now, they knew. And more importantly, they understood. Sometimes, the greatest strength is not in being seen. It's in being ready. Ready for the moment that matters. And when that moment comes, stepping forward. Not for recognition. Not for reward. But because it's who you are.